Hi, it's Brent Abel here, WebTennis, and today we've got my good friend and tennis coach extraordinaire, men's St. Mary's coach here in Moraga, California, Michael Wayman. Michael, thank you for taking the time with us today.
Thank you.
And I want to talk today about a topic that I just see all the time, not only at the amateur level, but I think you see it at the highest level in college tennis. I know that I see it at my level in senior tennis, and that is when we're up at net and we literally have the easiest, softest ball to put away. We've got our opponent off in the alley, falling down, they're over there tying their shoes, whatever, and we absolutely gag the volley.
Right.
And for me, what I feel like I've got to do is when I get that ball, I've got to artificially keep my eyes longer at that point of contact to ensure that I don't start looking out at the target, pull the racket, and mishit it and just miss the shot. So what do you try to help the guys with? Because I know that
it happens all the time. Actually, you get situations where I think that you've worked yourself into a position where you should win the point, and maybe work the point very, very hard, and so you're in this sort of hyperactive, revved mode. And
right.
You get the open court, and you're so anxious to get the ball over there.
Right.
And I think the first thing I talk about, well, we've got the basic of keeping the eye on the ball. Yes, okay, but it's very, very important that you take your time on the shot and keep your eye at the point of contact until you have contacted the ball. So I contact my shot, and literally my eye and head are staying at that point until that ball's off the strings. What happens to the majority of people, as you pointed out, is they get this situation here and they've turned their head off that ball before they've even hit it.
Right.
And so as a result, they've lost really their point of contact. They've taken their eye off the shot,
right.
So they have no real sense of where the meeting is.
And my sense is that a lot of players are looking to see if their opponent
yes.
is anticipating, where the shot's going to go. They're starting to run over there, and they're just looking at the landscape.
Right. As we've discussed in the past, I said really ultimately your opponent cannot hit the ball until you've hit the ball. And I think it really demonstrates it in this sort of situation.
Right.
I think you need to create time for yourself and look for the situation of making the play, and well, let's see what the chap or the lass do on the next shot.
Right.
When you get into that activity of trying to put a ball away too early, it's all that extrinsic stuff,
right.
as you're talking about,
right.
that sort of creeps into that.
Right. The other thing I think that happens, and I wish I had a device to measure this, but I don't, but I've got, because I know when I miss this shot, I feel like I've got the death grip going.
Yeah, the white knuckle
and
syndrome.
The white knuckle syndrome. And
right.
so not only am I not looking at the ball, but I'm so strong here that if I get lucky and the ball does get into the sweet spot, it's just dead, and nothing happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what can we do here to make sure that we don't have the death grip on this shot?
I think the main thing is when we talk about soft grips. What is a soft grip? It's basically a situation where you can almost pull the racket out of your hand.
Right.
In order to control the volley, or any shot for that matter, you need to be able to absorb it. As soon as you tighten,
right.
Then you cannot absorb.
Right.
So I like to think in terms, it's almost the feeling that you can almost catch the ball on the strings.
Okay.
And I think that if you have that sense of being able to absorb the ball, it comes primarily through the grip.
Right.
So it's the attitude. So number one, if I'm keeping my eye on the ball, have that thought process. I've got lots of time to play the shot, not worried about the opponent. And then from that point, I then have the feeling that I'm trying to hold that ball.
Right.
And soften the grip.
So you're not trying to get rid of it and get it over there before it's time.
No, exactly the opposite, actually.
Right. Okay.
In fact, I'd like to create more time for myself to hit the ball so that I can control that shot better.
Sure. Okay.
So then that puts a lot more pressure on the opponent.
Well, let's do this. Let me feed you a few balls, okay, and demonstrate for us, what your eyes on, and what I want to try to do with the video is really kind of get it tight on your face so that we can see that as you're hitting this ball, you're really leaving your eyes down there longer.
Absolutely fine.
Okay. Okay, let's take a look at Michael here, and a couple things I want you to take a look at, especially right here. He's got the put away volley, wide open court, and doesn't peek over there to just doesn't look way too early. You really get a good sense of it right here on this put away, and there it is. Eyes really stay down. Here's the approach volley. His eyes, obviously his head is sideways looking at that ball, and same thing here. The ball's left on the approach volley, but he's not peeking. And here's the put away, and this is something that you just got to practice. You got to really sort of artificially make this happen for a while. All right, Michael, thank you very much for your time today. That was great. Hopefully we can get together with you again soon.
Would absolutely love it.
Any questions, as always, ask Brent at webtennis.net. Have a great day out there.